So I'm a bit behind here. So Tonex version 2 was released, I think, around 2 or so weeks ago while I was on holiday, and I was really curious to see the kind of improvements and the results to the captures, specifically with high gain in mind. So this is quite a short video, but in essence, what I've done here is I've captured my FM3 rig, so the main preset that I use with my band Droga for live shows, practice and all that. And I did a capture with version 1 or 1.9.3, whatever the version was before, using Tonex. And then I also did the capture process again after doing the update. Now the big thing here with the update is that now we have 3 different apps to do, well, 3 different things. And well, there's also a plugin as well. And in essence, we have basically the Tonex app or plugin where you can basically play tones and put together presets. We have the Tonex editor, which connects to your Tonex One or your Tonex standalone or hardware device, where you can edit sounds on the actual device itself and load your Tonex presets and things like that. And then the really cool thing now is that the Tonex modeler side of things, so the whole capture process is now within its own app. Now you've probably seen videos on this, but what I find really cool about this is that you can make multiple captures of, say, an amp that you've set up, and then do the actual training later on. So you can do batch training, as it's called. So I can say set up an amp, do like 9 or 10 different captures at different settings on the amp, you know, and make note of what those are, and then do the actual training while I'm out or something like that, so that I don't have to sit in front of the computer and wait for a capture to finish as I did on the old software. Now, just to put things into perspective, so I did a capture with the old Tonex software using the advanced method. And so everything put together, so capturing the sounds from my FM3 plus the training, took about 28, 29 minutes. And then in comparison, doing the same thing with Tonex version 2 took all of about 8.5, 9 minutes. So already there's a huge improvement in terms of the capture time and also quality of life. So I can, in essence, do multiple captures if I want, do that training later, and the training itself is also a lot quicker on my system. So here's something I set up earlier, and it's in Reaper. What I've done is basically record a DI track playing various riffs, and I'm going to switch between version 1 of the capture of my FM3 and version 2 of the capture as well. One thing to note here with the version 2 captures is that the capture was slightly louder than the version 1. So what I did to compensate is that I reduced the output in the Tonex plugin on the on the second channel here, which is version 2, so that they're pretty much the same, so you wouldn't get that kind of volume difference between the two. And as we all know, louder tends to be, or perceived to be, better, so to keep these tests kind of more normalized. And now moving on to the next test before I draw any conclusion here, what I did was I put the same DI track on both the version 1 and the version 2 Tonex captures, and I'll play them at exactly the same time, and I've loaded Pro Q3 on both of these channels so that we can see the EQ differences, if any, that are going on while the track is being played. Now, what's interesting here is that off the bat, there's this kind of weird thing going on around the 20K region. I mean, it's not something that you'd really notice while playing, but something that I saw here. But otherwise, overall, really close in terms of like frequency or response here. You know, there's some small differences here and there, but ultimately there's more kind of differences and things that you'd notice when actually playing through in terms of feel and response. Now, just to wrap things up, I've uploaded both of these captures, so version 1 and version 2, to ToneNet so that you can check that out. And they're also available on my Ko-Fi page for free or pay as you want. So thanks a lot for any donations that come through there, as it really helps to support the channel. And in any case, I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts on the differences between a version 2 capture and version 1. If you could check that out, leave any comments below, that'd be much appreciated. So something really cool I think that IK have done here is, well, updating the capturing process and the models that are available within their ecosystem. So typically we've seen, say with Kemper or even Quad Cortex, Nano Cortex, or other sort of capturing devices that are out there, excluding NAM of course, is that, you know, they've had that algorithm and they've stuck to it. So like the first version of Kemper, yes, there's a new version coming out now, basically had the same capturing process that stayed the same throughout its lifetime, shall we say, and I believe the one in, say, the Quad Cortex, also the Nano Cortex, that hasn't changed. That has stayed at the version that you get with the actual unit itself. And now what IK have done is basically update the capturing process so you'll be getting improved captures which can still be loaded by the same devices. Now what we've seen with, say, neural ant modeling is that that's constantly being improved and pushed to make things even more closer to the real counterpart. And it's great to see that kind of research or evolution and development also in more, I'd say, affordable and real world devices, if that makes sense. Now for me, after doing the captures and playing them back to back, the initial sort of like, oh yeah, version 2 capture was louder off the get-go. But once I leveled out the levels to make the comparison, the thing that was immediately apparent to me, at least, is that I find that the version 2 capture of like my really high gain sound is, I think the best word would be juicier. Like the way the saturation kind of responds, or how it feels to play through, is simply nicer than it is using that other capture, or the V1 capture from before. So on I'd say a sonic level in a mix, it's not something that's immediately apparent, but when you're playing through it, version 2 is certainly nicer to play through. I like the response a bit better, and it just feels a bit juicier to play through. And I'm not sure if that's the campaign term to be used in terms of marketing, but that's at least what I was hearing and feeling, especially when playing through the version 2 capture. In any case, hats off to IK for pushing, you know, the capture process here and further improving what you can get out of the device. I mean, a Tonex one is around, I think, 160 or so euros. It's absolutely tiny, can fit on any board, and it's a perfect backup unit, I think, as well, if you're using that with, say, other units. The only caveat per se is that to actually make captures yourself, you need to make, well, a relatively small investment. In my case, I bought the Palmer Trave, which I'll link to the video I did on that up above. But once you've got something like that, and then you can easily make captures of, say, amps you own or gear that you own. And with these software updates as well, that's made things a lot more easier and also quicker. It's a lot more fun to use as well. In any case, thanks a lot for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. Take care.